warm welcome, and with a lot of pleasure and gratitude, I welcome you all once again. Namaste, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from whichever part of the world you're joining us. Thank you so much. And I'm so thrilled to welcome you all to this very special series, Switzerland for Sustainability. And we have a very important and very well-known organization whom we are inviting today, and that is Holcim Group. And we have Mr. Martin Kriegner, who is the head of APAC, Asia Pacific region, and also the group executive committee member, as well as the person who has set up the group Cement Excellence team. So very warm welcome, Martin. So pleased to have you here with us.
Thank you. Looking forward.
Okay, great. So without really, building any background, I would jump straight into the first question, which we generally want to understand from multinational companies like yours, who are really trying to, cope up with the business processes and the business requirements and the pressures of, the revenue growth with respect to sustainable development. So my first question to you will be, how would you want to define sustainability in the context of Holcim Group? And how does that percolate down to your business excellence, and how does it trickle down to your strategies and overall vision?
Very good question. At Holcim, we believe in building for progress for the people and for the planet. Our vision, our main strategy is to be the global leader in innovative and sustainable building solutions. We have a quite comprehensive sustainability framework, which goes from green products and solutions to the circular economy, to the built environment, digitalization, but also the capture and utilization of carbon. And as part of that, it's also very much embedded that we want to aim to advancing the society and to uplifting the communities. You may have seen that we have committed very ambitious targets to carbon reduction with our 2030 commitments, which are science-based targets. So it's not something which is just a commitment, a vague commitment. It's science-based, it's a roadmap. And even beyond 2030, we are working now on science-based targets for a net zero environment for 2050. In India, we have two companies, as you know, ACC and Ambuja, and they have also developed their own sustainability ambitions. And I have to say they can match with the global standards, and it's very much aligned with our Holcim approach in terms of sustainability strategy. It's all embedded in all facets of our business, the sustainability, including customers, supply chain, and our production sites. So it's a very holistic, comprehensive, future-oriented framework.
Great. And how do you think it connects with your company's culture, mission, and values?
It's at the heart of our business strategy, the sustainability. And as I said, we want to be the global leader in innovative and sustainable building solutions, which is the basis for all our strategy and for our roadmap. We want to be also on the forefront of this development in sustainable construction. We want to be the leader. We want to set the standards. We want to be part of the solution when it comes to sustainability. I just want to highlight that this topic is very important to be looked at from the customer perspective, because we want to help also our customers to reduce their carbon footprint, not only during the construction of a building, but during the whole life cycle of the building. Because as you I'm sure you know, that the carbon footprint of the usage phase of a building is much higher than the carbon footprint of the construction phase of the building. And here we are offering green products already, which have a very high green performance, because they are, compared to conventional products, cements and concretes, already 30% less CO2 intense than the conventional solutions. And we are monitoring our progress very well when you say implementation, strategy, embedded. We monitor this with the KPIs. So we have sustainability KPIs where we monitor the progress of our implementation of the strategy on a regular basis.
So I was actually going through a McKinsey report that was specifically focused on cement industry and construction industry perspective it was presenting. And one of the insights that I derived from that was the fact that by 2050, our construction industry, specifically the cement industry, will be able to cut down its CO2 emissions by 75%, which is a great hope because currently it is far from where it should be. However, the matter of the fact, which is most interesting in this statistics was this, that out of whatever we are going to reduce, only 20% can be attributed to the operational excellence. Remaining 80% was attributed to innovation and technology. So since Switzerland is a country that really focuses on innovation prima facie, and I'm sure Holcim also has that as a deep DNA quality. So how would you, define innovation in the context of sustainability? And I would love for you to share some examples where you have innovated in the sustainable products segment.
I agree with you. I think innovation is key to solve this challenge. And we don't have all the answers yet to be net zero in 2050. So there will be a huge innovation journey from now until then. And I give you a few examples. What are we doing? And it's not in one area you should focus on. So we are focusing on many areas. As I said, for us, it goes from the customer back to our operations and even to the suppliers. One example are our low carbon cements and concretes, which are already available. I mentioned it briefly. This is really exciting. It's a global range of Ecopact and EcoPlanet. It's available already in many markets. And this is a significant step in the reduction. And it goes beyond the efficiency of the plants, as you said, because it's the performance of the product with the customer which is reducing the CO2 by 30% and more. And here, of course, there's also a lot of innovation behind that we could launch these products. I give you another innovative example, which is more linked to the circular economy. We have launched a Circular Explorer, which is driven by renewable energy and is sailing oceans, can also sail big rivers, and collects plastic. We all know that the plastic pollution in the water is a big problem. Right. And then the plastic is collected from the sea and it's sorted and then either recycled or we use it for co-incineration in our cement plants in a very efficient manner. So that's also a very creative idea, I think, for the circular economy, a very innovative idea. Another innovative idea at global level is we recently have showcased the Striatus, so-called Striatus bridge in Venice at the Biennale, which is a 3D printed bridge. And it shows also the role of 3D printing in the whole innovation journey going forward. And it uses concrete as its best because concrete is 3D printed and it's used there where the strength is really needed more than in other parts. So concrete is actually a beautiful product which has a high versatility. And with this kind of modular construction, 3D printing, we can explore new avenues of innovation. On the digital side, we are progressing well with our plants of tomorrow. So this is Industry 4.0 concept. This goes more, of course, back to the efficiency you mentioned. So we want to make our plant with robotics, artificial intelligence, predictive maintenance, data-driven decisions, machine learning. We want to make our operations much more effective. Topic is, of course, in this webinar also, how does all this translate into India and what innovation are we doing in India, as you said earlier. And I'm happy to report that the Ecopact concrete has already been launched in India and very successfully. So India is already a market for green products. So that's, I think, is a very important and encouraging message. On the circular side, we have done something very interesting. This is the bubble barrier technology we have implemented in Agra. It works like this, you know, at the bottom of the river, you have you put air and you pump the air up, and all the plastic in the river gets on the surface of the river and can then be easily collected. So that cleans up the river. At the same time, we reuse the plastic. So again, this concept of circularity. We have also done something interesting in India as a transport analytics center, which is also very innovative and goes beyond also the plant efficiency, where we measure the efficiency of our transportation. Because we are producing quite a number of products, and here we measure the scope 3 emissions already now, which is, as you know, transport-related emissions of CO2, and so we have data about this, and that's the first starting point to be innovative on this topic. Mm-hmm. Another innovation in India is the biodiesel in shipping. So I think we're one of the first. We all know it's a huge issue, the ships and fuel in ships. So we use biodiesel already very successfully. And again, very local initiative, very innovative, and also very much linked to the customer, our green building centers in India. These are small city centers in the rural markets, where we, with local entrepreneurs, we produce and market local green products. So you see, it's just some examples of a vast range of innovation we are following.
That's really very, very interesting, I would say. And I think at this juncture, we could also present that small slide deck that we have about all the processes in place.
Sure. I think it's good to give a bit an overview, probably a bit more specific.
Yes.
When we can start.
Yeah.
So just going back to, I cannot move. Yeah, now it works. Good. Okay, so I hope it works now. Yeah, it works. So you can see here that sustainability, as I said, is at the heart of our business vision and strategy. We're making the cities greener in all kinds of applications in buildings, from the foundations to the roof, with low carbon solutions. This is key. Life will be concentrated more and more in cities. It's on the one hand a challenge, on the other hand it's also very efficient, and there can be solutions where cities can become very efficient when it comes to sustainability. We are also empowering the society with smarter infrastructure. Here, of course, the green mobility topic comes in, but also the renewable energy is extremely important in this context. And with all this, we want to improve the living standards of people and improve the conditions of our planet with affordable and sustainable solutions. The key levers we see here are, on the one hand, it's the green buildings, so with our green building solutions, and as we said, innovation is here key. Then digital, from the quarry to the customer, I think is extremely important in the whole value chain for sustainability. Then, as I said, we have committed to the net zero pledge, and because sustainability is at the core of our strategy. Circular economy is very important, and I will come to that in a minute. It's not only on the waste of municipal waste or plastic, as I already explained. There are many more examples. Our own product, concrete, plays a key role in circularity. And then, of course, we do all this for the people and the communities. I mentioned already our science-based approach. What I did not mention yet is that ACC and Ambuja in India are also have also given a net zero pledge on science-based targets just a few weeks ago. So they are here front runner, and what is globally possible is also possible in India. Now, a few examples. We have seen Ecopact, I mentioned it already. We have seen EcoPlanet. Concrete is a beautiful product because concrete, first of all, can be used in a building in a very effective manner. I have managed a bridge, and you can use really very efficient construction methodologies when you use concrete. It can be 3D printing, etc. And then concrete has very good insulation properties. So throughout the life cycle of a building, concrete has very good sustainability performance. And at the end of the life, concrete can be recycled. And then again, fresh concrete can be made out of recycled concrete. So concrete is a beautiful product when it comes to circular economy. It's probably not so known, but I think when you hear this, you must see that it's very obvious that concrete will play a very positive and key role in the future when it comes to sustainability. I mentioned the recycling of waste. Holcim globally has a target of recycling 100 million ton of waste and byproducts. That's part of the circular economy. We have this geocycle arm, which is basically the foundation for recycling of all kinds of wastes, including municipal waste. I mentioned the Explorer on the bottom, this catamaran. Then, very important is the renewable energy. We have of course wind, we have solar, and you see this is also more and more integrated in a very aesthetic way into buildings, as you can see on the picture on the right top. I mentioned the plants of tomorrow, where we work on the digitalization and industry 4.0. I mentioned also the Striatus bridge. This is a beautiful bridge. As you can see, it's modular, it's 3D printed with all the advantages of concrete and recycling. Then we have the 3D printing. We have very good examples now with 3D printing in Africa, also in the affordable segment or in the social segment with schools. We should not forget also the impact on nature of our activities. So very strong programs when it comes to nature, biodiversity. And what we have not discussed yet, we will see a lot of innovation on products, on circular economy, but there will be a remaining part of CO2 to be captured from our operations in cement with carbon capture, and then the utilization mainly and storage of CO2. But we are more looking at the utilization of CO2, because CO2 is also, when you look at CO2 from a circularity point, CO2 can be also a valuable product, yeah, because we know CO2 is part of many products. So it's not, we should not consider it as a waste product.
Absolutely.
Then the next thing, if I may, is what a bit on India. So you can see we are water positive companies already in India, plastic negative, which is also very good. Then we have very low carbon emissions already in India, because we use a lot of products, byproducts of other industries in our cement production. Ambuja is a number 5 globally in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. That's quite an achievement, because this measures all the sustainability initiatives on a global scale. Yeah, and that way Ambuja is really a front runner also. Then biodiesel I mentioned, and geocycle business, I think we have a slide later. That's also very important. Then here you see what we do in India, and partly in innovation we have done outside to bring in, where you see the Ecopact concrete launched in India, very successful. And Ambuja Kavach, that's also an interesting product that has been more developed locally with global support. And it's a water repellent cement, of course, also very sustainable. And the solar impulse efficient solution label, which is a very interesting label, because coming back to your question, innovation, it labels innovation, sustainable innovation, which also makes business sense. And this coverage has been, I think there are globally only 20 products, and this is one of those 20 products which has been recognized. The next one is on, again, on India. We do also the plant of tomorrow in India. Then I mentioned the biofuels, biodiesel, and this all has to happen in the interest of nature and the people. And we have a long tradition in India with the Ambuja Foundation, ACC Foundation, also in social work, which we have done long before actually all these topics have become more prominent. And the last slide on the examples in India, we have all kind already of renewable energy. So we have water power, we have wind power, we have solar power, and we are investing now in a big way in green energy with our waste heat recovery project. So we have.
If I may ask, would love to know what is the percentage split for renewable energy in your overall portfolio of procurement?
For the time being, I think we are. I mean, when we have also the waste heat recovery, we will be between 20 and 30%. But it's of course it's still a long way to go. But I think on the energy side, I see it really possible to become green, so to say, if we continue our path. Yeah, because there are quite a number of known levers and also levers where the economics are working. Yeah.
I really liked your point about, recovering CO2 to, make it use as a very valuable product, because instead of just discarding that and trying to get rid of that, as the world has made CO2 look like a villain almost. So we need to get to a dialogue where CO2 can be put to use in a positive way, the way plants do, right? Plants are inhaling the same CO2 and giving us oxygen, making their own food, and actually being the provider for the entire universe. So similarly, I think if the concrete industry is able to innovate something, I'm just thinking aloud. Being an architect, I'd heard of the green envelope, which is the artificial photosynthesis process that it enables. That the envelope can actually inhale CO2 and convert that into oxygen. And the kind of additive, it is almost like the equation of a paint, how it converts that, and the byproduct becomes oxygen. So that is one of the ways where, as you were saying, concrete is a wonderful magical product, given the fact that it can be laid into any shape and size, and the kind of durability, which is in truest sense, it is sustainable, made to last forever. So those are the experiments probably which might help us, utilize CO2 in a positive way.
No, I fully agree with you, Gayatri. And I see three ways of usage of a CO2 as a raw material. Yeah, mainly three ways or four ways even. One is, you mentioned, you can use CO2 to feed plants, and grow plants. And we have one project actually in Spain where we are a pilot, where we're experimenting this way of using captured CO2 as a raw material to grow plants. The other option I see is, and we have also a pilot project, that was the chart I was showing earlier, is in Germany, where with partners, we are trying to make out of CO2 a fuel for the aviation industry.
Excellent.
So that's also a fully, circular idea.
Right.
It requires also, of course, a lot of green energy, but that's also part of this project. Another way is, we have a project in Austria on that, is to use captured CO2 as a feedstock for the chemical industry.
Okay.
So in the process, you know, so to say recycling and avoid that in the chemical industry, especially in production of plastic, you use virgin product. You can make out of CO2 as one of the components also a feedstock for plastic production, chemical production. And the last thing, which is also exciting, is that you can use the CO2 to recarbonate the concrete.
Okay. That is very interesting. So how do you do that?
That's also not known so much because it is a fact that during the life cycle of a building, CO2 concrete absorbs CO2.
Yes, carbonation.
Carbonation. Yeah. So,
right.
And you have seen in the latest report, climate report, there was also a scientific view that this carbonation effect of concrete to take out the CO2 as part of the life cycle of the concrete structure should be considered for the CO2 reduction.
That's
And I think there are good
a game
arguments for
changer,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that would be a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Then clinker factor, we are very good because we have already in India high numbers of substitution products, products which are based in other industry now, cement. And where we also a front runner, I think, in India with our geocycles, the alternative fuels and raw materials. I mean, this is really the most efficient way to give energy to our operations by avoiding fossil fuels.
Right.
Then I mentioned this exciting pilot we did in Agra, which is the bubble barrier curtain. You see the oxygen comes from the bottom and pushes up the material, plastic floating in the river, and then we harvest the plastic and we use it. Another practical example is what we call urban mining. This has become now in India a very important aspect. There are many old landfill in the past where the material was just put under the ground. And now for many cities, this has become a problem because the city cannot grow because you have this old landfill in a way. Right. In the way. And many cities are now, and we are doing with over 20 cities now in India, this project. The old landfills are opened and the material is recycled. The material which is left in the old landfill is recycled. And those elements, which is mainly plastic, you know, which cannot be recycled, we use in our cement kilns as a fuel, as an alternative fuel. Okay. So we are cleaning up the whole old landfill in cities. I think it's also, we should probably speak more about it because it's really exciting.
That is actually going beyond your scope of work and trying to take care of some other existing problem in the country, because waste management and waste disposal has been a challenge forever. And with the growing urbanization, this problem is going to only escalate with time. It will not reduce.
I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
Then the next one is EcoPlanet. That's also a very exciting product. And here I want to make a point. We have this product in some markets where we use also construction demolition waste from old building in the product. So that's also a perfect example of circular economy. The construction demolition waste is not disappearing. It's reused, it's upcycled, so to say, into EcoPlanet cement, which is a beautiful product again with low CO2 footprint and in a fully circular manner. And the performance of the product is also great. So no compromise on performance. And then we want to extend now, these are the things which are coming next. So the EcoPlanet we are preparing to launch is not yet launched in India. In other markets it's launched. And then you have the bubble barrier. We want to go now into other cities. What we have done successfully in Agra. We want to do in Varanasi, next door plants in Ambuja, Naga, etc. So because the pilot has been very successful. I thought, Gayatri, that one thing I wanted to speak about also is the roadblocks I see, especially in India. Why can we not go faster with innovation and
I was
sustainable
about to come to
solutions?
that question actually. So, since you were
Yeah,
talking about the innovations, I was going to ask you that, I mean, first of all, how far is India when it comes to your global innovation acumen? I'm sure that you are present in 70 countries and not all the countries will be at par with each other when it comes to innovation. So, how would you rank India among these 70 countries? And then second question is that what kind of roadblocks do you see in the country, and how are we going to cope up with these challenges and come up with some solutions?
yeah. No, I see in some areas we are well placed, especially in our sector in terms of innovation and what we are doing compared to other markets. For instance, I was just mentioning the addition to cement of a byproduct of other industry to lower the clinker factor. Here we are very well positioned in India. And so that's a very good part. I think we are also catching up now with the renewable energy. When you look at the wind energy we use, the green power we use, the waste heat recovery we use, I think this is also a part where we are in India, I think now well on track. Then I would also positively mention the Ecopact product. So when we launched it, it was more a bit a trial, yeah. But there is real demand for this product in the market as a carbon reduction product. So that is a positive news, I would say. But there are some elements which are holding us back here. And of course, one is there's no incentive really for green products. Yeah? There's no carbon tax or no carbon price, or the regulations are quite loose to use green solutions. So it's not, it's more, I would say, still the exception that the customer selects a green solution than other things. So and this will be very important also to finance innovation, because you can only finance innovation when there's an incentive to do so. The second point is where India is really behind, and we have countries like Switzerland, also in the US, that there's really a lot of recycling of construction demolition waste. So when a building is broken down, it's not just that the material disappears somewhere in the ground, so it's upcycled, reused, and all the construction rubble, the mineral component, can go back in concrete, as I mentioned. It can either as recycled aggregates or as a filler for cement for concrete.
And at this point, just I'm sorry to pause you here.
Yeah.
So this is a very important point that you mentioned, and it has always come up whenever some demolition practices are happening across the country. And you know that building bylaws not adhering to that almost causes several buildings to be demolished, and even the roads and all get reconstructed. So there is a lot of construction debris that really comes across on an annual basis. I may not have the exact figure, but then we can find out annually in a country like India, we have tons of such demolition waste that can probably go into a sector like cement. So, what kind of mechanisms are provided, or what kind of entry points are there with such organizations like yours to collect that kind of waste, or to even attract that kind of waste? Because again, as you rightly mentioned about the incentives, I think some incentive provision of demolition waste collection will definitely help people to do that automatically.
No, you are right. I mean, it's the topic is here to build new with old, without compromising on the performance. That's the topic here.
Right.
And it's of course not only that a new waste problem is created when the demolition waste disappears somewhere, it's also you save virgin resources by using the demolition waste. What is the trigger point? When I look at other countries, I see basically two trigger points or three trigger points. One is that you're not allowed to dump the construction demolition waste in the ground.
Right. So that's a regulation.
That's the regulation part. The other part is the standards and norms. So what they did very well in Switzerland, they changed the norms for cement, that you can use construction demolition waste in the product.
Okay.
So for instance, the BIS would not allow for this. Yeah. So
is it? Okay.
yeah. So that means there would also be, it's also regulation if you want. So there would need to be a change in regulation. It goes a bit back to my point on the top, yeah, where I'm saying that the norms and regulations are not allowing sometimes for this innovation.
Right.
I give you another example, even for, you can also make a cement which has clinker plus limestone, which is just a natural limestone, not treated, not burnt.
Right.
And this is a product which has a good CO2 performance and is used in many markets very successfully. For instance, even in our company in Bangladesh, which is somehow next to India, we are using this product. In India, we are not allowed to use this product. And there's no reason not to use it because the performance of the product is great. So you see my point. It's sometimes historic regulations which are not changing and things like that.
Got it.
So these things would need to change, yeah. And then, of course, also a bit more awareness. The awareness is also always important. I mean, from all stakeholders, from customer side, from the governments, from the public opinion.
So there is a comment here which says that fly ash can be used as an additive for the cement, and I'm sure that it is already being considered at Holcim.
Yeah.
But there is one caveat to that, because with the growing awareness on climate change issues and sustainability practices by the manufacturing companies, what's going to happen is that these steel manufacturers and all these organizations who have fly ash as a byproduct will start, coming up with practices which reduce the overall quantity of fly ash, right?
Correct.
So in a long run, that is a commodity which is going to deplete over time. So
no, I fully agree with you. So this is a byproduct of fossil fuel usage when you generate power, for instance.
Right.
And this, under normal circumstances, should disappear. Yeah, I agree with this. So there's one aspect to fly ash, Gayatri, I need to mention. A lot of fly ash has been also ended up in landfilling, which is wet fly ash in fly ash dams.
Right.
And there are huge amounts in India which are, when you look next to power plants, when they could not use the fly ash otherwise, they just put it in the ground. And this is also for me a kind of a exercise of these dams need to be cleaned up.
Right.
And there's a very, I would say, a very useful usage of this product then in cement. And we have started with this because it's a bit a fly ash which needs to be treated before it can be used. And we are investing in this treatment equipment to use it. So I agree. So that's why construction demolition waste is so important, because you, instead of fly ash, you use construction demolition rubble. Or we are also working a lot on calcined clay globally as a mineral filler for cement, because calcined clay has also a very low footprint, CO2 footprint, compared to other products. So, and clay is available in many areas, and even in our quarries, it's sometimes a byproduct. So, which we are now using to refill the quarry, but this could be used also as a as a filler for cement. But for this, again, the norms would need a bit to evolve that it can be used. But I think it will come because some materials will be more scarce, and then room for others would need to be made.
Right. So are we done with the slideshow, or?
Just my last point here, Gayatri, is this is important also, which is holding us somehow back, is the substitution. We are not replacing traditional fuels or fossil fuels in our cement plants. We use alternative fuels, as we have shown with the alternative waste fuels. But when we are doing this in India to quite a large extent, but compared to leading countries in other places, we are almost using 100% alternative fuel in cement. So almost no traditional fuel. And here we have to go a long way in India. And one of the reasons is that, again, landfilling is still allowed. Yeah? And in Europe, for instance, you cannot do landfilling anymore. And then what happens? The waste has to be recycled.
Right.
So when you stop the landfilling, you encourage circular economy.
So the moment we have such government interventions where the waste of one industry can be utilized by the other industry, or there are rules and regulations that prevent that irresponsible dumping of waste, then probably all these synergies will start taking up, right?
I agree with you.
So I'm sure that the institutions or the bodies which are, trying to be the spokespeople for this industry, for example, Indian Concrete Institute, so they should be the people to take this forward, or how does this work? Like, who is the entity which is responsible to voice out these concerns and help us leapfrog, because we just don't have time. Now is the time that we have to act with a lot of urgency. So
yes.
what is
I think that different agencies would be, for the waste regulations, different agencies are responsible then for the cement norms, and it would be a more wider, lobbying or advocacy approach. But I think we should probably put something together to make it even more. It's happening, but I think, as you said, the time is running, so we need to act quickly.
Yeah. So in fact, the discussions have been on for almost last 1 decade, because I've also been listening to the overall life cycle impact and life cycle analysis of building products and building materials, and cement being the most important, piece in the whole equation. So it has been quite, a well extended discussion on this topic. So in the meantime, a lot of development has happened in the technology side, and I really appreciate that. And kudos to Holcim for having pioneered some of these innovations. But having said that, there are still areas which require lobbying, which require, getting the system corrected. And that system correction also now is a responsibility for the businesses and communities together, because we just can't wait for somebody else to take the lead and solve it for us.
We need to work together, and there are very smart solutions which are possible,
right,
which are working in other countries, and we just probably need to highlight also a bit more these smart solutions, and then it will be understood that it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that I have been really intrigued about is the fact that the most unavoidable piece in the manufacturing of cement is the calcination process, right? And that is something which you cannot just get rid of, because that is such a fundamental, part of the process of manufacturing cement. So how do we intend to take care of that in the long run? And there are two ways. One is that we try to, as you said, we try to utilize alternative fuels. That is one of the, process interventions that we are talking about. One of the ways that is most interesting sounds to be like carbonation, where we can actually utilize, CO2 in the process itself. And the third can be, renewable energy usage in the whole equation. So which one do you think seems most, what you say, doable in the next 3 to 5 years out of the three?
Yeah. I agree with you. It will be a combination of how should I say, levers to
Right.
achieve this. It's for me still the reduction of the material which is carbonated, means the clinker, and use more
Yeah.
products which are not energy intense or not carbonated for that matter, is extremely important. These are the green products I mentioned. Yeah, the Ecopact, the EcoPlanet, and this is very much in reach. And yes, there will be continuous innovation, continuous technology improvement, but it is very much in reach. So we can make now cements, concretes with a very low CO2 footprint already by replacing the clinker with, as we discussed the limestone, the non-carbonated limestone, construction demolition waste, calcined clays, etc. So this technology is by and large available. The products are in the market. We just need to ensure that they are also used. That's one part. The other part is on the electricity side. Here, I think also on the technology side, I think we are quite far advanced to make our plants, our operations to a large extent equipped with green power. And here, again, we mentioned it's solar, it's a combination with wind, with water power, and also of course, not to forget the wasted recovery, which is extremely important because it's also part of the circular economy, that the waste which would otherwise go just out of the system, you capture and produce electricity in our operations. So that, and the technology for this is also available. So I see a clear roadmap in this direction. Then we have, of course, the topic that so you can also, from the fuel side, when you produce clinker, you can avoid, as you mentioned, with alternative fuels, you can also avoid the carbon footprint. That's why it is so important to have this geocycle and this waste used in our production as a fuel. Then what remains, and you were saying it, there is the carbonation when limestone is converted into clinker, which is a natural chemical process, which is part of nature, so to say. And here, I think the opinions are that there will be some level of carbon capture being required, which is coming from this natural chemical process of converting cement clinker into limestone into cement clinker. And that's a very natural process, and the capturing, there are technologies available already. There will be a lot of innovation on capturing technologies in the future. And the question is a bit the economics of all this. When there's no demand for a green product or for a decarbonized product, then it's very difficult to justify the investment. And as you mentioned earlier, then when you have this remaining part of the carbon captured, then you should really use it as a feedstock, as a raw material, as a valuable product for other products. So yeah, this is also, of course, in nascency from a technology point of view. So all the technologies related to utilization of carbon, there's still a lot out there in terms of innovation.
That's great. And I'm also sure that concrete is a very beautiful innovation, which is having the overall life cycle impact is very low. I mean, compared to anything else that replaces concrete. I mean, look at the road infrastructure in India. Now that we are getting into the concrete roads, the entire durability and sustainability of the system is of no compare, right? In comparison with what it used to be with tar roads and things like that.
Yes.
So this is having no questions about the overall life cycle sustainability impact of the product. Also in terms of water, that is one area because of the heat of hydration of concrete. I'm sure that because curing is required, and in a country which is not as educated or maybe is not having as much of what you say practices or equipments to do the curing in the best most sustainable manner, that happens to be a challenge in many building development sectors, because the curing is done with the hose pipe and you're just spreading water all over the place, and that's such a criminal wastage of water. So I'm just giving that as an example, but there are a lot of such similar simple examples where the people on ground, who are the grassroots people who are supposed to be implementing the projects in place, do you think it is actually connecting with the extended producer responsibility of yours as a group? So how do you take care of that training, and how do you ensure that the manpower is trained and leveled
Yeah.
up to take care of these issues?
No, that's a very interesting point you're raising, and we are taking the traditional methods of curing of concrete sometimes too much for granted, and they cannot be changed. I give you two aspects as an answer. One is there are cements which don't need water for curing already. So there are innovative products, and we are looking in India also to bring these products.
Okay.
Because this would kill, so to say, the aspect from the beginning. Yeah. So, and then we do have a lot of engineers in the field, our engineers in the field, advising the customer on construction techniques.
Okay.
And also for curing, I mean, if you use a cement where you still need curing, we have also tools and methods. We train our customers and help support our customers to make this curing process more efficient.
Okay.
So we go beyond, yeah, and it's
I
think it's part of the service and solutions we are delivering to our customer.
I've also read somewhere about the green building centers that are created by Holcim. So is this the kind of part and parcel of that initiative?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we have, that's exciting. I mean, I have visited a few of these centers, and normally more in the rural markets. Mm-hmm. It's for us also a question of reaching more out to, one of the ways to reach out more to the rural markets. And then we have a local entrepreneur normally who sets up this center. It's a little bit a franchising concept, I would say. And so it's very much driven by the local entrepreneur, which is also good because it empowers the local people. And then we give them the know-how to produce these green products. I mean, and these are products also which are produced. We are doing bricks, for instance, which have a very low CO2 footprint. We are producing sanitation products, which are also green products because it's a proper sanitation system. Just to give you a few examples. And the ideas, the technologies, also the franchise know-how comes from us.
Interesting. So one more thing which I wanted to ask, and that is just as a matter of fact, because we have just overcome the second wave of pandemic in India. So because manufacturing sector as a whole was hugely hit because of the pandemic. So how did Holcim cope up with this stretch, and what kind of interventions did you propose to help the communities that you serve?
Yeah, no, that's a very important question, and a very good question. And we should have actually started with this because it's so important. We were really, we had a program which we called Health, Cost and Cash. Mm-hmm. So yes, we looked at the business, but the most important thing is the health of our people. And we had resilient teams in each of our operations, which were also networked amongst each other and also with global support, where we managed, I think, the health crisis very well, putting the health of our employees, but not only the employees, the families, the communities, and even our channel partners in the center of our activity. And really during this period, worked a lot on digital and followed the protocols of the government, and even sometimes, went beyond it. It was very successful because we got very good feedback from the stakeholders in doing so. We also were driving the vaccination in a sense that, yes, everybody has to decide on his own if he wants to get vaccinated or not, but we were really supporting. If people wanted to get vaccinated, we enabled them to get vaccinated. And we have a quite high number of employees vaccinated, which I believe personally is important. And we have also the advantage that in our cement plants, we have also hospitals attached, so we could really give first-hand medical support during the pandemic. So that was really for us the most important thing, the health of our people, and stay connected with them, even not physically, but also, make sure that the motivation, we keep up the motivation, and they adjust to the new situation.
And I'm sure digitalization part also could have become much more, prominent within the organization during this period.
Yes, that was amazing. Yeah, how actually prepared we have been for this kind of work. That was really for me one of the biggest surprises in the pandemic, that we switched overnight from the normal way of working, I would say, to a fully digitalized way of working without seamless.
Huge congratulations on that, Martin, because this is really commendable, given the fact that this was the period when most of the organizations were really striving to come back to normal, meet their business revenue targets, and trying to cope up with the economic pressure. But you were able to serve the communities and innovate during this period on sustainability even more. So that is truly a exemplary example. So,
but what helped us, Gayatri, was also we have such a strong infrastructure around our plants already to support the communities. So when the pandemic came, we leveraged this infrastructure further.
Wow.
We don't need to build the infrastructure to support our people. It was just another dimension of support.
That's amazing. That's great. So with that, I do have more questions, but then I see that there are a lot of questions from the audiences as well. So I will leave the room open for the Q&A from everyone. Pawan, please do enable anyone who wants to ask the question, let them unmute themselves and ask. Thank you. So thank you, Martin. This was really amazing speaking with you. And we will conclude that after the discussion is over. But yeah, so we have our first speaker, Mr. Gautam.
Yeah, good evening, Martin. Good evening, Gayatri. Both of you were very excellent today. The conversation was very highly informative and motivating. Here is my question. This is something related to the innovation part that you have discussed. I appreciate the efforts by Holcim as of now. But has Holcim tried working on introducing nanomaterials into concrete? Because that has been a very fascinating and trending topic that I have been going through for some time. And this could be anything: nano silica, nano aluminum oxide, nano titanium dioxide, carbon nanofibers, because there are also some concrete reinforcements through fiber filled or glass fiber or glass reinforced concrete, things like that. And this is to enhance probably its performance on durability and strength. Are we talking too much about the futuristic materials? Is it still a long way to go? Is it still on the drawing board, or have you made some progress on that? That is one question. Second one is slightly simpler. This is any insights from you on the smog-eating concrete that we heard recently, which has this photocatalytic additives like titanium dioxide introduced into them. I mean, this is for neutralizing pollution. Nothing to do with carbon or emissions. But then this is another area of very interest to people like me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. A very good question. So I think the first question is on nanomaterials, I understood, in concrete. As I said, concrete is a beautiful, versatile product. And yes, we are working on that. And we need, as you said, we need to get very high performance with probably different composition of the binder or different composition of the concrete. We are working on that. We have launched in France recently a high-tech product, which is, of course, for the time being more a bit, I would not call it niche product, but for the mass market is not ready for that yet. But I think we have to be ahead of the innovation curve. We also have a beautiful product in our innovation portfolio, which is on the market, which is called ductile, which is, as you rightly said, a fiber reinforced concrete, which has no traditional reinforcement. Yeah, so there's no steel in this concrete, and this is already available on the market. The product is called ductile, D-U-C-T-A-L, and it's a high-tech product also. And as you asked, I was also thinking, you know, that what's also amazing, what we are doing, it even started in India, and probably we're not speaking enough about it also, is you can put sensors, you can link the digitalization with the concrete. So you put sensors in the concrete, and then you measure the performance over the lifetime of the concrete with the sensors. Yeah, so you have a smart concrete, so to say, and this is also getting more and more prominence, and we are working on that topic also. So that's also a very exciting topic. Who would expect sensors in concrete? So, and then I think when I understood your second question correctly, you were asking about the pollution absorption of concrete. Yeah, was this the question?
There is something called smog-eating concrete, which have those additives, photocatalytic additives.
Yeah. We have also, there are a few of these, I know what you're talking about. There are a few of these products on the market. We have this also. I have seen it in our center, in our research center also, how it works. Yeah, that's available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. S.P. Anchuri, you can unmute yourself. Okay, I'll read out the question.
Please.
So his question is, in reality, still mindset of the customers is not so ready to accept fly ash. Then do they accept recycled materials? What is the international experience for you?
Thank you for this question. I think in many markets, what I see, the customer is not really asking what's in the concrete or in the cement. He asks about performance. Yeah, and I think with whatever combination of materials you reach the expected performance, it's fine for the customer normally. That's my experience. I use this example, you know, when you eat a cake and the cake tastes well, you really don't want to know what's inside, except you are a cook on yourself, you know. So you see my point, yeah. So I think I don't see any pushback on when the performance is guaranteed, which is of course the basic assumption. Then I don't see a pushback because of the composition of the product.
Okay, so there's one more question. That is, one of the major air pollution is the dust explosion during mining of limestone. So what is the future planning to combat this issue?
Yeah, No, I mean, this is, for me, this is a basic thing. Yes, you have many mines in India, and there are mines who are scientifically managed, and they are as per global standards, and they could be anywhere in the world. And there are mines which are not scientifically managed. And I think we manage our mines in a scientific manner. And for this dust problem, there are of course also many ways of avoiding the dust. That starts with the blasting technology. That starts how you water the mine. So we have normally in all our mines, we have water sprinklers in order to keep the mine wet, so that there's no dust emission. So this is not a rocket science. Yeah, this should be normally part of a best practice how to run a mine.
Okay, we have one more question. Pawan, can you just make Mahesh unmuted, please? Okay, I'm just reading it out in the interest
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear him now, yeah.
Yes, hi Martin. Hi Gayatri.
Hi, Mahesh.
Congratulations on an excellent session. It's been extremely enlightening, and I'm delighted to see that many of the amazing initiatives at Holcim are being brought to light through this discussion. Quick question, Martin. Given your size, your girth, your global presence, how have you been able to, how are you trying to influence policy in India to make those policies more favorable? Example, landfills, and some of the other instances that you described.
I can give you one example, which should for me be the encouraging example, yeah, and very specific. Again, I try to be as specific as possible so that we have a good conversation. It's linked to the use of alternative fuels, plastic waste in our production. And as I said, there are two aspects. I mean, one ideally would be that the waste does not land into the landfill and it is recycled or reused. So that's one part. But the other part is, how do you allow this material to be used in our cement operations? Mm-hmm. And here, I think we had an amazing experience when the regulations were framed for the usage of alternative fuels in our production. The Indian government was really looking at the best practices globally. And as I have said, in some markets, in some countries, 90%, over 90%, almost 100% of the fuel is alternative fuel. So they looked at these examples and then understood that this makes sense also from an emission point of view, environmental point of view, and changed the Indian laws very much in accordance to the laws which are in Europe, for instance, where first you say, okay, I would like to avoid the waste, and then the second principle is the waste should be recycled, and when it's cannot be recycled, it should be co-incinerated in a cement plant, and then put out the conditions for that. And I think that was an amazing example how this has been adjusted and allowed. It was a huge enabler. But now we have, of course, other tough topics. We have the construction demolition waste, as we discussed. We have the topic probably of standards of cement, what can be used as a filler material. We were discussing the pure limestone. We were discussing construction demolition waste in cement. So this, I think, we need to find ways to convince the government or the regulator in a similar way to copy the best examples globally.
And also, of course, the price sensitive aspect. pertaining to carbon tax and carbon
Yeah.
premium and so on. Yeah, but no, that's great. That's great.
Because the Indian government seems to very much focus on the renewable energy, which is good, and I think there's good progress also how they position themselves globally in the context of the global scenario. But I think it's this part, as you mentioned. There's for the time being there's no demand for green products which is created by regulation.
Thank you. Thanks. And again, congrats on a great session.
Thanks, Mahesh.
Thank you, Mahesh. One question I had, Martin, which I could not really touch upon, like what is the role and what is the, commitment from the board when it comes to sustainability initiatives at Holcim? Because it is very important for sustainability to be top driven and to have the consensus from the board of directors as well.
That's a very important question you raise. We have, and again, this is very similar what we have in our global Holcim board and what we have also on the boards here in India and ACC and Abuja. So we have, it's of course a very strategic topic and it's part of all the strategic discussions in the boards. And we have also committees in the boards, which are sustainability committees, so that really the right focus is there. The boards are also following up on the KPIs, on the sustainability KPIs in a regular manner. And part of my compensation is also linked to achieving sustainability targets. So I think that's also really a proof if what you want to do is you really want to do it. Yeah?
Okay, great. And by when are we aspiring to go net zero when it comes to Holcim?
No, I mean, we have said 2050, 2050. Mm-hmm. And we have the roadmap, the scientific-based roadmap until then, and there will be a combination of topics, yeah, and we will implement them along the innovation curve. But net zero 2050 is definitely possible.
Okay. All right. So I think I'm done with the questions from my end, and it was truly a pleasure hosting you, Martin. You were such an amazing guest, and all the questions and all the wonderful things that you shared, they were really an eye-opening information that you have shared with all of us. Because innovation in the field of concrete is something which is progressing at such a high pace. Not many of us were aware of that. So kudos to you and your Holcim Group for pioneering the innovations and sustainability movement in the sector. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks everyone. It was a pleasure to have you. It was a very engaged audience. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye.